Super excited tonight for our 15-year anniversary celebration.
Ooh, yeah.
God is good. We are gonna have a great night tonight.
Yes.
And we just want to thank everybody for coming out. You know, we have our East Las Vegas family in the house.
Yes, we love you so much. Thank you for your faithfulness in all these years.
Yes.
We have such an amazing church.
Yes. And not only that, but even in the house, we have Victory Outreach family from different cities that are here with us, and then also people that will be watching our 15-year anniversary, our celebration. We're just super excited, and we're gonna walk you through. We're gonna walk you through the past 15 years of the ministry here of Victory Outreach and take you to some old places.
Yeah, the spots where we evangelized, won souls. And then you're going to get to see the different churches that we were able to have church in, and then even some testimonies of the people that came in to those churches and have been with us 15 years, 10 years, 5 years. And we want to do that documentary just for you to see the history of Victory Outreach East Las Vegas.
So we love you. Thank you guys for coming out and enjoy yourself. I think when the call came, we were just busy, man, in our church, really helping our pastors see the vision they had in their heart being fulfilled there in the mother church.
We were on campus. We were living with about 15 guys. We had our own campus, like satellite, kind of big life group that grew to 100 people.
Yeah.
And we had to work hard, and I know God really did something special to see if we were going to be able to build something.
Yeah, Pastor, he actually developed a track.
Yes.
There was a track that he developed, and it really put us to be a part of every ministry in the church. I'm talking from the campus to V groups to children's ministry, the gang, evangelism, and just really put us on that track to be developed. And then when the call came, wow, I was shocked.
I know.
I was super shocked. There's so many ministers in the mother church that have pioneered and put work in, not only in the States, but in different parts of the world.
Yes.
And so when the call came, I was like, wow, I was really surprised.
Even the drive here, when we were driving, it was probably like 12 a.m., 1 a.m. at night, because it was hot when we came to Las Vegas. July 12, 2007.
Super
so it was hot. So we drove the kids, everybody, in the middle of the night because they would be sleeping. And right when we seen State Line on the hill, our tire went kind of, what is it?
No, it was crazy. It was crazy. Like, the outside of the tire peeled off.
Yes.
But the inside, the tube part was still intact.
Yeah.
So the car was jumping back and forth, and the kids were awake, and they started singing, you know, this is the day, this is the day. They started singing the songs that they learned from living with all the men.
Yeah.
And so they were singing songs. I think we were driving like 3 miles an hour. I'm not kidding you, like
slow.
Super slow.
Because we didn't want the tire to pop.
And we didn't want the tire to pop. And we drove all the way in like that. The kids were super excited. I remember we parked the car in the garage. The U-Haul was parked outside. And I said, let's just go to bed. It's already late. Let's go to bed. We'll worry about everything in the morning.
Yeah.
And we woke up and I went in the garage and the car tire was completely flat.
Yes.
But what was crazy is it didn't go flat when we were driving.
It got us right there.
It got us right to the house. So that was the very first house we had.
Yes.
When we moved out here to Las Vegas. The funny thing is when we got this house, Janine never saw it.
No.
She never saw the house.
So beautiful.
I came out. I met a lady who was a realtor and filled out the paperwork. And by the time I got back home, we got our proof of the house. And we moved out here, and that was the first house, the beginning of the church. God really moved there.
I love the house. It was perfect to start a church in because, you know, when you start a church, you have a lot of kids. And we had a playhouse, 2-story playhouse with air conditioning, a playground in the back. It was perfect to host a church there.
I remember those 2 houses in the back.
Our playhouse. We had a really cool playhouse. We had a jungle gym, and then it had an air conditioning unit in there, and then we put like all our toys in there, and we would go outside like at nighttime and look out the window, and like it was cool. We had a cool little play area.
Yeah, I think our first service we had there in our living room. There was a lot of prep work that went into that. You know, Janine and I and the kids, we would just go out. We would just go out and talk to people that were in their front yard. We would go to the park. And kind of invited people.
We always try to make it real personal.
Yeah.
That was something that I really feel like people gravitated towards because they felt like family. They felt loved, you know?
Genuinely loved, yeah.
from the very beginning.
First service we had, it was nobody.
The team. We had to pray.
Just a team. I came downstairs in my suit and I preached like I preached today, you know, to the team.
Yeah.
And of course the presence of God was there, but I think we just kept going out. We kept going out. The second service is when people started to show up.
I had never seen anyone have church, a full-fledged church in their living room. And I was born in the church and we always went to church. But that's when, you know, people are motivated, they're on a mission, they're driven. I watched people keep coming. There's cars parked and more cars parked, and I soon offered, hey, I use my driveway. I don't use it a lot, so if somebody wants to park here, I won't be home, park there. And the church continued to grow.
Yes.
And I never forget, because I was like a little bummed out that we had a service and nobody was there the first week. So then before service, I went to the store and I got a Red Bull. And when I'm coming back to the house, there's like cars.
Yeah, cars lined up all on our street. And he was like,
yeah, there's cars in the street. I'm thinking in my head, like, what are these cars doing here?
When we heard that Pastor Mondo was here, we didn't know who he was, where he was. And we were looking for him, and we would ask. We would call to San Diego, we would call to Los Angeles to find out where this pastor was. And nobody would tell us, or they didn't know. And so I told Eddie, let's go to where they say he's at, more or less. Let's go find this pastor. So we were going up and down the streets looking. I said, there's gotta be some kind of sign that Victory Outreach is out there.
And we were told, we're gonna go to Pastor Mondo's church. You know, your uncle was telling us about him. He's coming out here. And so we're gonna go check it out. And I remember going with my brother. I had my sister, my dad, along with my grandma. We went to go check out this new church with Pastor Mondo to see what it was about. And it was in this little living room, this little house somewhere on the east side.
So yeah, Family Lewis Park.
yes, so many great memories here.
So instrumental in the beginning. This is where we did a lot of our evangelism. When we started in our living room, this is where we would come, we would evangelize.
I would take the kids in the stroller and we would walk around, talk to all the moms, and it was great here.
Yeah, and right here, I don't know if Johnny can get a shot. Right here, right there, at that barbecue spot is where we experienced our carne asada miracle.
Oh, that was. There's somebody, I forgot who it was, gave me a small package, a little 2-pounder of carne asada, and And Pastor told me to hold on to it. So I held on to it, and then all of a sudden there was like a long line. Every time we'd go to the park, it's like nobody would come. And this time, there was like 40, 50 people. And then you have Ray on the other side, and you got Mando Duran on the other side hounding me down for some carne. So the pastor said, open the package. Then he said, wait, let's pray for it. So we prayed for it, laid hands on it, and then I tore it open, and it just kept on coming out. And I didn't notice it until after almost everything was done. But yeah, it spread everybody.
To get our first building, I mean, we only had 2 services.
Yeah.
2 services in our living room. And I just always felt like God wanted to do something big.
I came 2 summers in a row, and after that I graduated the UTC and I went back to Chicago. And at that time, you know, I was in a little bit of transition, like where did God want me to be and where did I want to be?
We both came into the church when our church was in a building on Betty and Owens.
I went out looking and I found a little building on Betty and Owens, a little small apostolic church. The cool thing is on Sunday they had church in the evening, not in the morning. So the pastor gave us a morning service, and from having a morning service, and then we had a midweek service there, and then we had our gang service there, and it was on Betty and Owens. I mean, God really moved. He brought a lot of the first people into our church, and a lot of those people, they're still with us today.
I came in, I was a single mom. My daughter at the time, Brisa, was 10 years old. And a friend invited me, and she invited me every Sunday. And I remember I would have hangovers, and I would get upset, like, why is she inviting me to church? And one day I just went, and it was a little building, maybe around 15 people. And I thought to myself as I sat there, what am I doing here? I can't believe I'm here. It's a Sunday, I have a hangover. But as soon as our pastor began to speak, there was just a presence, there was an atmosphere of love. It was something that I couldn't explain at that time, in which caused me to come back over and over.
I remember going and visiting Pastor Mondo. I made a friend relationship with him, and I remember the UTC would always come, and crusades and a bunch of things were happening. And I was always there. You know, he always had people at his house all the time. You know, and I remember one day he asked me, hey, do you think you could help us, you know, with the keyboard and drums as well, you know? But I would hop on drums and keys. And at Betty and Owens, that's when I started helping them right there. Every Sunday I was there.
Well, I could still remember when Pastor Mondo was preaching, and he would be like, exactly like what he says today. He was coming down from the green room, and I remember him coming, and he was always shouting, and just the preaching was so passionate.
Pastor would preach visionary. Even Sister Janine would speak, you know, like a visionary, and we would hear that constantly. But I think I was just so focused in the moment. What do I do now? Not that I doubted, I definitely believed it. I just didn't know what it looked like yet, you know? And as it's happening, you're noticing it in retrospect. You look back and be like, oh wow, we were only at 50 people 2 months ago, and where these 40 more people come from? And it just starts to happen so quick. So I definitely believed it. Did I see it? I think I more heard it and believed it. I just didn't know what it looked like, so I would just follow Pastor, and we would just say whatever we got to do. We know we're going somewhere.
Betty and Owens Church was very, very exciting and very instrumental in that first group of pioneering our church. A beautiful, beautiful time. So it was in the warehouse that God really started to grow the church.
Yeah.
when we were in the warehouse, it was on fire, man. It was cracking. It was always jumping. It was always on fire. You know, like it was just Holy Ghost. You know, it's hard to describe. There's something you can't describe unless you're there, man. Unless, you know what I'm saying? It was just life changing.
I remember just sitting back, wearing my Dickies, my Cortezes, you know, just hearing it out. But I remember specifically during the altar call, I don't remember really what was talked about or anything really. I just remember, you know, standing up out of respect, and all in a sudden just a waterfall of tears coming down. I couldn't hold it.
Well, one of my favorite memories, I remember because I rap, you know, so I was young and my uncle gave me the opportunity to, you know, do a little concert and rap in front of, you know, a lot of people, as they invited a lot of people out to like this little Halloween event. And my uncle was like, man, you should do a rap song, mijo, make one about Jesus. I'm like, man, that's nothing.
My grandpa says, hey, you want to come to church? We're going to have a rap concert. And at the time, Pastor's nephew, Mike, was rapping, him and some of the young guys. And I said, all right, I'll go. You know, so I went, and it was cool. I saw young adults there, guys my age with hoodies on and snapbacks, and like, what's up, bro? Like, I'm like, you can say bro in church? Like, I don't know, I just thought you had to be real holy and weird. And but it showed me that you could be a normal young guy and serve God.
Straight warehouse. From the outside, did not look like a church. There was a Victory Outreach sign outside. And but when you walked in, you were just instantly impacted. Like this was a church. And my opinion, we've had some of the greatest times in the warehouse. We had great speakers come and speak. Not that we don't have the power of God now, but the power of God was so heavy in that building. Maybe because it was 200 degrees inside, but it was so impacting for my life and my family's life. And the power of God was just heavy, and I believe it was so heavy for us because it was a time of restoration for our marriage and our family, that God knew what we needed at the time. And if we can stick it out in the warehouse, I knew we can stick it out for the future of what God had for our church.
One of the key moments that I've got to see, many of us got to see, is with the warehouse building and also the club church, we didn't have an office. Like, we didn't have a church office, like, you know, so all the counseling sessions, like when Pastor and Sister would meet with couples, when they would meet with families and young people, it all took place within their home. And I've gotten to see them continue to sacrifice their own, like, you know, things that are theirs. They got to give it up, like, you know, someone like me, they give up the children's room to let me move in. And that's where Pastor Alex, which he wasn't a pastor at that time, Pastor Steve, he wasn't a pastor at that time, and Ray, they were dating. Honestly, they were all dating. They were all dating at that time. And we all got to live with our pastors and to serve there. And I remember it was at the house. Everything was hosted at the house. The newcomers the newcomers dinner would be hosted in their backyard. I remember there was like one time we had it, and we had a kids game, but kids game was like, there was probably maybe like 35 kids, and I was the only teacher. But everyone was in the back, everyone was, you know, hosting a newcomers thing, and, you know, everything took place there. Celebrations took place there. And, you know, honestly, I got to see Pastor and Sister Janine just, you know, time and time again, because I also had the privilege to be able to live there with them. And they are the same people, you hear it all the time, they are the same people that you see at the church, even behind closed doors. And you know, there are times that they would pray, like times when there was, we had faith moments within the church, them really believing for God. I've gotten to hear the prayers, and I'm like, man, like, here I am here in this house, and I gotten to see a lot of things. A lot of times they were called to travel, you know, and me and the kids, we would stay back home. And there was never a moment where, I'm sure there was never a moment where the kids ever like felt, you know, like, oh, they're always gone, you know, because they were very well-rounded. Pastor and Sister would come home, they would take time, there would be family days. And in the midst of all that, I got to be a part to learn it.
God moved in such a powerful way.
Yeah, like
we had Holy Ghost services in that.
Yes.
We had elders, we had Pastor Ed and Sister Mitzi. They came to our building there. We had Tim Arganzoni. We had our pastor.
Pastor Al Valdez.
We had Pastor Al Valdez. We had Tim Story.
First service that we attended with East Las Vegas was Tim Story was a guest speaker at the warehouse building. And I think for me, because I was young, I was a little uncomfortable, but God allowed the people in East Las Vegas to really open their hearts to my family. And we felt accepted, we felt a part, and now you guys are my actual family, so.
I came in as a single mom, and I feel like I lost so many years I didn't have fun because I had my son when I was like 19. So, you know, I just was focusing on my son. I didn't go out much, so I felt like I wanted that freedom. I started drinking thinking that was gonna satisfy me. So when I started coming to church more, I felt like that satisfaction or that urgency to have fun or something that's going to satisfy me, I found in church instead.
It was crazy. I had never really been to church, and I had never been to a church like our church. So I didn't know what I was walking into. I didn't know what to expect. And it was just an atmosphere I had never been in before. Everyone was nice, everyone said hi, everyone hugged me, went out of their way to make sure they knew who this new girl was, and the atmosphere, I didn't understand it at the time, but it was God all over the place. I'd never seen that or been in that before.
And it's funny because when we go and we look at it, it was so small.
I know, but we thought it was so big. It was so funny. But you know what, leaders is when leaders rose up in this time. They caught the heart, the vision of our ministry, and they caught our heart to build this church with us.
Yeah.
And you could see leaders started to rise up, boom, boom, taking ministries, taking ownership of helping us build there. And man, we had a great time in the warehouse.
Yeah.
That's where I think the heart, boom, started to grow even bigger with the people that he brought to us.
So it was in the warehouse that God really started to grow the church.
Yeah.
The only thing is we didn't have air conditioner. We had no air conditioner in a warehouse building, and it would get so hot in there. And I knew, me and Janine had talked and said, we got to make a move. If we don't make a move, we might start losing people.
Yeah.
And right at that time is when we had the opportunity to move into a nightclub.
We got invited through my sister Melissa, and it was at the warehouse. And I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, so when I went in there, I was excited to worship. I was like, oh my gosh, this place is pretty cool, you know? It was just an exciting place. And there was an altar call, and Pastor Mondo was like, you know, if you want to receive God in your life, you know, this is like a salvation altar call. So I went up there, we both went up there, and then he was like shondoing, I don't know if shondoing would be the right word, but he was he was touching people and they were falling. So for me, for the first time seeing that, I was like, what is he doing? So I'm trying to focus on praying, and you know, and then I'm like also looking on the side of my eye, like seeing what he was doing. And I'm like, and then he was coming towards me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's coming towards me. And then he touched me, and I'm like, and I fell back and I fell on the floor, and it was just, that was my first encounter with God ever in my life, and it was amazing.
I think for us, we had just got married. I think we were married for like, oh my God, maybe 3 or 4 months. And so it was a time that was very crucial. Like any newlywed knows that when you're first married, you need to have like a good godly marriage to model after. And we got that with Pastor Mondo and Sister Janine, because we came and, you know, even though both of us were married before, even though we had kids before, we didn't know how to be married serving the Lord. And we had great examples in Pastor Mondo and Sister Janine.
So when I came in, I came in, I'm like, we're pulling up, right? And I was like, all right, well,
we're at the club. It's at a club? And she's like, yeah, well, for now, this is where we're at. And I'm like, all right, it's my work. So I'm like, okay, at the club, okay, well, let's go check it out.
Our pastors back then were very heartfelt and passionate. And to be honest, that same passion has been there for the last 11 years that we've been a part, or even longer. The same drive, the same excitement, the same enthusiasm, the same vision of we're gonna take the city. And now we're able to see that become a reality. And it's just amazing to see where we were and to be able to see it come to pass now. And they truly are the best, to be able to see that it's the fire still burning strong.
And I was sitting in the back, and God was moving. God was moving, and I remember seeing Pastor, and I'm like, I'm looking at him, and then he calls me up. He calls me up one service, and gives me a big hug, and welcomes me in. And then from that day forward, I'm like, man, I made that altar call too. I made that altar call, and it was different. It was different. I know that that's how I knew that was my home. This is where I belong.
Yes, what an experience, huh, that we had here.
Yeah.
7 months we were in this building.
The nightclub for 7 months.
The nightclub for 7 months. And it did grow us.
It did grow.
We grew even more, and we had some great experiences here. We also had a lot of outreaches here as well. Remember that big old harvest outreach that we did?
Yeah, for some reason our harvests have always been great events.
Yeah, huge.
We did a harvest event here, and I have to say, at that time, with the size of our church, which was pretty good, we probably had about 500 people that came out to our harvest event here at the nightclub. And God grew us. Not only did God grow us numerically, and God added to the church, but He grew our faith.
Yeah.
He grew our faith. We were kind of like, we were the middle person to the building. The nightclub people, they ran the building.
Yeah.
And man, it grew us in our patience, and we would pay rent to the nightclub, and then sometimes they wouldn't pay the rent, and they would call us and say, "Oh, we're short on the rent," and I would just say, "Well, how much more do you guys owe?" And we would just pay it. We would just pay it because we had to have church.
Yeah.
And not only that, but God was already moving, and God always provided. He always provided for us at the nightclub.
We kind of came in and really took over, because I know they were doing the nightclub thing, but then all of a sudden they couldn't make moves to grow their nightclub, so they weren't even having anything for the nightclub. So then that's when we came in even more, and it seemed like we were here.
We took over
every day. Like, we really took over the nightclub here.
We took over. We had church
Victory Outreach took over.
Yeah, we had church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Thursday night, Friday night with the gang. Pastor Sonny Sr. even came to town when we had the UTC with us in the nightclub, and he wanted to meet with everybody. And he said, "I don't want to do it in any other church. I want to do it at Armando's church." And he came to the nightclub, and we put chairs in a circle, and he met with us, and he met with the UTC, and we were able to have lunch with him and drive around, and he loved what was happening at that season of us being right here in the nightclub. Humble beginnings, man. Humble beginnings. But God really moved, and not only that, but we made the IHOP rich.
Yeah.
Because the IHOP's in the same parking lot.
And Chuck E. Cheese too.
And Chuck E. Cheese, because all our people would go to Chuck E. Cheese and IHOP after church. So they owe us, but God moved. God moved in the nightclub. Powerful things took place.
I remember our Summerlin building, we were there for 8 years.
8 years.
And I remember when you and Pastor Alex went to go see the building, and you're like, "Janine, we're gonna get this building." And I remember thinking, are we gonna be able to afford this building? But I remember God telling me, you have to trust your husband. And I did just that. And God always came through with the Summerlin building. But what amazed me was when we walked in there, we thought it was so big, and we're like, we need a plan to fill this place up. And God amazes me because he brought so many people. He brought givers, leaders, he brought so many people. And that church, we exploded in Summerlin.
Double services.
Exploded there.
One of the things that, for me and my wife, that got us to stay in the church was, honestly, it was the love, the presence of God. You felt it there in the atmosphere every time. But also, too, everyone made you feel a part, as if we knew them for years, and we were new, but just the family at the time.
One thing that I vividly remember, and it's like, it was cool, it was that pastor came to my senior graduation. I didn't know, like, we invited him, but I didn't know he was actually gonna come, you know, and then not only he came, but like the whole church came too, like Brian came, Pastor Steve came, Marcos came, like all the guys came, and I walked out and I saw my family, but then I saw pastor, and then I saw the whole church.
Well, our first service was on a Thursday night. Man, we felt loved. There was a lot of hugs, a lot of hey, welcome, a lot of hugs. And we felt kind of welcome. And at the end of the night, after, you know, we gave ourselves to the Lord and everything, my wife asked me, what do you think about this church? And I said, this is the one, and here we are.
One of the things that made me stay was we had an altar call, and I had been looking for a church since I had moved here from North Carolina. I had grew up in church, but like a lot of us, you know, I strayed away, did my own thing for a while. And I clearly heard God's voice at that altar call say, welcome home. And I just remember crying and realizing like, oh, this is gonna be my new family.
I am blessed to be a part of something that started in the living room. You know, you have to take yourself back to some of those times and remember that God did such a miracle just there in the living room. It started with just 4 people to where we're at today. It's such a blessing to be a part of a movement. It's not just here, but around the world, and we actually get to be a part of that.
And then also just seeing all the young people. I had never seen so many young people like serve God. Like this was everything they did, you know, this is their life. They weren't like, you know, on the weekends, just a Christian on the weekends, and then like during the week, you know, did their own thing. But this is their life every single day, and I thought that was so cool.
One thing that helped me get more involved was the feeling that the person that was involving me wasn't afraid to ask me for things even though I was still new. I remember when Brian was over the campus and he would just invite us to just come clean the church. And it was so simple, and that helped me because I knew that it was all family.
So when I walked in, the very first time I was greeted by a lot of people up in the front, a lot of the greeters, a lot of people just in the foyer, just constant, nonstop, hello, hello, a lot of handshakes, a lot of unwanted hugs, a lot of, you know, can we help you? You know, it was just an overwhelming love that was there.
I remember the worship was always fun, and I've never been to an exciting church until we came to Summerlin. And I remember I was like, wow, like church could be fun, because I always thought it was just boring.
The first service for me was, it was hard to explain at the time, but it was just a miracle took place. A lot of chains, a lot of bondage, a lot of hurt, a lot of anger, a lot of things that I grew up with hurting as a little kid. God released it. He released it in that one service.
The elements that made me stay were how exciting it was to be there and having something to do. I was like 14 when I came in, so being out of the house was fun for me, going to church. And I remember I would bring all my friends with me before I was even considered saved. I would bring all my friends and they would see me like clapping my hands, singing along to all the songs, and they were like, what's wrong with her?
Just the uniqueness that Victory Outreach has. It's completely different from any other churches I've been to. I grew up in a church, and it was just, it's different, a different dynamic, different, you know, of how we reach people, and you could just feel that it was real.
My first experience was I came kind of by force because he wouldn't stop. He kept inviting me to come. And my plan was I was coming to fix him. But the second I came in, I just felt something I never felt before, which was just overwhelmed with love and the power of God. And I just remember just bawling at the altar. I don't remember the message. I just remember kind of offloading this heaviness that I've been carrying for a long time.
So I got really involved really quick, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna open my house, because growing up, my house was always active, people coming in and out, it was really inviting. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna invite all the guys to spend the night at my house. And you know, they all came, and there was about, I don't know, 20 to 30 guys at my house, and it was so much fun. We stayed up late at night, you know.
Worked hard, and we were there every single day. There was something every single day at the Summerlin building, and my God, we grew leaps and bounds there, and key people came to that building that are now like our home directors, you know, key people overseeing our children's ministry, and God brought leaders. That's where leaders
and not only that, but it was in the Summerlin building that our church started to really partner with Pastor Sonny Jr.
Yeah.
And this is what I mean is, we were a part of the work that was being done in Ireland at the time.
Oh yeah.
I think I went to Ireland when we were in the Summerlin building. I think I went to Ireland like 3 times.
Yeah, and you stayed there for 1 month.
Stayed there in Ireland for an entire month, helping the church out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, he grew us locally, but also I think that was the beginning of God expanding our ministry and being a part international.
Yeah. We learned so many things.
Yeah.
In that building. We learned so much in that building. All of our trainings, our discipleships, creating the culture.
Yeah, there was a culture shift in the Summerlin building, a culture shift.
You could tell like things, we really had to take things to another level. We really had to grow in keeping people, loving people, our discipleship, everything. We had to grow. We were growing in that time.
Yeah, and then little did we know that it was just a setup for the next level that God had for us. Yeah, and God brought us back to the east side, and this is where we belong. We belong on the east side, winning souls, winning families, and we had so many great moments right here in our building.
When I first came in, I wasn't really looking for a church. I just went because I was invited by friends and people that I hung out with at the kickback. But being there, it really made me feel like it wasn't just church. It was something. It wasn't just church. It was a family I was coming into.
We've been able to see God grow us numerically, but not only that, but we gave birth to our own baby church right from this building. We gave birth, we launched out Pastor Joe and Anna out to the west side, and they're doing a great work out there.
So at that time, we were working on a satellite church in the West Las Vegas. We had a group of people helping us over there, and the call came to open up a church. And I remember we were at a prayer summit in Chino when the call came to open up that church there in West Las Vegas. So it was such an exciting time. I just couldn't believe what God was doing, and I was just so grateful.
I think this building has been a building where God has expanded us. Not only has He accelerated the work, but He's expanding us, and we're stretching out And we got a work that's going on there in North Las Vegas, getting ready for our second work in North Las Vegas, and then also making our way towards Henderson. So I think right here, this building has really been a place of expanding us, expanding our faith, expanding the leadership, and giving us a big reach here in the city of Las Vegas. What a great journey it's been. And I know that the best is still yet to come. There's still a lot more that God has for our church, for your life, for my life. And I'm super, super excited to just see that plan continue to unfold. So we love you guys so much, and let's celebrate.